All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm really excited about today's presentation, how to make your first hire and why doing it right matters. And so, what I alluded to shortly during our conversation prior to starting is the right hire will absolutely make or break your business. And having the wrong person in
Mm.
the wrong seat will ruin you and almost put you back into that space where it's like, hey, I would just rather do this all by myself. But the reality is, you
Right.
cannot grow by yourself. And so, first of all, if you are here right now, I want to congratulate you. You made it. The reality is so many of us sign up for things thinking it's a good idea that, oh, I definitely want to attend this. And then you allow your schedule to get really busy and you simply don't. You wait for the replay and you don't watch it. And so the fact that you signed up, you made it, and here you're here live today just shows your commitment to your business, your commitment to yourself. And I am proud of you. So everyone just take a quick moment. Give yourself a round of applause, pat yourself on the back because you absolutely 100% deserve it. So, I know you signed up and you're ready to take away value. And so, what you're going to take away today and be able to implement is identify the right time to hire and avoid burnout. Understand the difference between hiring an employee versus a contractor because they are very different. Learn how to leverage grants, internships, and workforce programs to afford your first hire. I'm telling you, your first hire doesn't have to be $50,000 a year. And even if it is, there are programs that will make that affordable for you. And then, of course, master a streamlined hiring process to find and onboard the right candidate. In addition, we've got some special resources for you today. Dawn's coming in with a really amazing offer to make sure that you do this the right way the first time. And because you attended live today, we'll also be sending you a special kit that we've put together that gives you all of the paperwork that you need to make your first hire and bring them on the right way. And so, what's the reality of doing it all by yourself? You cannot run a successful business and grow it doing it all by yourself because here's the thing, it's the bottleneck effect. And I know so many of you have probably experienced this where everything depends on you. And so, because it depends on you, it simply doesn't get done because it stops with you. And you only have so much capacity as a human being. And then that brings us into when we're at our capacity and consistently operating at capacity, you get burnt out. You feel like you don't have time to do anything. And then because you're so distracted, you're so burnt out, you're actually hurting your business because you're likely missing out on growth opportunities because you're too burnt out to do the follow up you need to do to close them. And so the key to growth, the key to avoiding all of this is hiring the right person in the right position at the right time, which means you have to be strategic. And so today we're not talking about willy-nilly just hiring someone because you think you need them. We are going to talk strategic hiring. And so how do I know? What do I know about strategic hiring? And so I am currently director of marketing at a government consulting firm and founder and CEO of Queen League Consulting. I went from 17 and pregnant to a multi six-figure agency owner. I'm the creator of the Business Growth Bootcamp, and I host the Boss Too Hard podcast. A lot of hats I never thought that I would imagine that I would be wearing. But in the process of this, I realized very quickly that I wouldn't be able to grow to a multi six-figure agency. I wouldn't be able to sustain the success I was looking to experience in my business without having people in the right seats. And so, less than 6 months into operating my business, I decided to make the right hires, those strategic hires, to take some things off my plate so I could focus on what kept the ball moving forward and putting experts in their positions that could serve my clients better than I could. And so that allowed me to focus on the strategic marketing, communications, business development, digital marketing strategy. I got really good at digital marketing ads, so Google, Facebook, all of that, and could forget about the organic social media, brand strategy, beyond fonts and colors and all of that. What are people really feeling about your brand when they see you, when they hear about you, when they hear your name? I developed an online course and I got really good at repurposing content. One blog, 60 pieces of content, we can do it, I promise. And so the reality of all of this is I wouldn't have been able to step into really my calling, who I needed to be as a business owner without having the right people in place. Because I tell you what, writing a course, publishing the course, marketing the course, starting a podcast, distributing the podcast, those are full-time jobs in themselves. So this is one reason why I'm so incredibly passionate about this topic, and I want to give you this information today. So one of the most important things that you can give yourself time to think about is just simply knowing when it's time to hire. There are a lot of signs that you're overdue for a hire. Some of them are very intrinsic, very this is how I feel, and some of them people can see when you're overwhelmed. So if you're constantly behind on important tasks, it's time to hire. If your customer service experience is slipping, if your deliverables for your clients are slipping, it's time to hire. If you're missing opportunities because you didn't have the capacity to respond, reply, nurture, it's time to hire. If you're doing tasks that are not in your genius zone, you need to hire. And you know what needs to get done, but you simply don't have the bandwidth to do it. You need to hire. Does that make sense to everyone? Right? Is it clear now when you need to hire? And so identifying your needs, there are other signs. The signs are there that you're overdue for a hire. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you sit down and think about kind of what's going on. And so when someone comes to me and they're like, I need help, but I don't know exactly where I need help, I don't even know where I would start. This is what we start with. And so the exercise is to make a list of everything that you do in your business. On one side, it's going to be the tasks you love. And on the other side, it's going to be the tasks that you hate or you aren't good at. And so I know this is probably jogging some memory here about some situations where you've been like, oh, I really hate that. Oh, I should have asked her to do that. And so a lot of people don't even know where they should start first. But as we talk about where we're starting, if there are some tasks that you absolutely hate doing in your business, I would love for you to drop them in the chat. And so, first, tasks that drain your energy, you cannot operate as a leader in your business if you are doing things that are draining your energy, because what happens there is that it creates a bitter root in your business and you start to almost not even want to operate in it anymore because it doesn't fill your cup like it once did.
Mhm.
Second, low dollar value tasks that someone else can do. So here, I want you to think about it this way. For every decision that you make, there's an opportunity cost. Let's say your hourly rate as a business owner, when you do what you are best at, when you are operating in your genius zone, let's say it's $150 an hour. But you are still cleaning your own office. And the reality is it takes you 4 hours a week to clean your office, but you can hire someone at $25 an hour to clean your office. And so those 4 hours, if you're operating in your genius zone, you're making $600 an hour or $600 for that time span. But if you continue to clean the office, you're not saving money. You're actually losing $500 by trying to save $25 an hour, trying to save that $100 a week. You are losing $500 a week. And sometimes in your business, that's a big deal. And so the third place that you should be operating in your business or thinking about where you should be delegating is work that simply requires expertise that you don't have. When I think about this, I think about the creative space a lot. A lot of us do not have the skill set to be building our own websites, designing our own graphic design, doing our own bookkeeping, um, things like that. Those are highly specialized tasks. And if you want them done well, you are usually way better off having someone else do them. I promise you will feel much better in your business and you will actually start to get some of your time back.
Mhm.
So overcoming the hiring hesitation. You're like, Laurel, I get it. Like, there are definitely some places where I'm dropping the ball and I should be outsourcing. I should be hiring someone. I shouldn't be doing this in my business anymore. But how? How do I do it? And the reality is it's scary. Like it's scary. So the fear we hear a lot is that hiring is too expensive. But the reality is there's a lot of ways that you can hire that make it affordable, especially if you're willing to think a little bit outside of the box. And I know Don is going to dive into that. And I'm so excited for that conversation. Fear two, I don't know how to find the right people. It takes time. Hiring the right employee is like a courtship. You don't just dive right in and marry them. You have a conversation, you get to know them. Maybe you go on a few dates, maybe there's a test project, and then you make the hire. But the reality is that you will find the right person. It just might take a little bit more time than you had anticipated. But I promise it's totally worth it. And number three, I'm afraid of letting go of control. That is my thing. Like I sometimes think that no one can do something better than I can. No one knows my brand the way I can. But I tell you what, when I tackled fear two with getting the right person in the right seat, it made a world of difference in my business. Feeling like I was the only one that can write emails for Queenly Consulting had me stuck. But when I brought in Lauren, our copywriter, it felt like a huge weight was taken off my shoulders. And so, yes, these fears feel very real to you, but the reality is that you can absolutely overcome them and it's going to make a huge difference in your business. So when you think about this and you're getting down to the nitty gritty, I want you to remember that your first hire should be someone who frees you up so you can focus on the needle moving activities in your business, right? So you need that first person allows you to focus on your genius zone. You're going to hear that word genius zone a lot today. And so how? How do you make this happen? How does this person add value? All the types of things. And so I'm a big fan of reverse engineering, right? Let's reverse engineer the ROI. How is a good hire going to pay for themselves? So let's say the cost of a new hire is $3,000, but the expectation is that they're going to free up 20 hours a month of your time. That's a big chunk of time for you to get back as a business owner. And when we're really good at what we do and we're loving what we're doing, that's like that's the opportunity that will make all the difference in the world in our business. And so you use those hours to bring in two new $2,000 clients per month, right? Whatever that may look like for you. And so the new revenue is $4,000. Your new hire cost you $3,000 and your business is already $1,000 in profit. And so one of the ways I saw this happen in my business was I hired on a fractional client where I was responsible for all of their marketing activities. The social media management, graphic design, I was doing a lot. It was in the beginning of the business and I was okay with that. But the reality is I hate social media management. I can do it, but I don't enjoy it. And so I looked specifically for somebody who could manage social media for me. And what I did is a $2,500 a month client. I outsourced the social media for $750. By taking that time off my hands for $750 a month, I was actually able to go and find another $2,500 client, paid her again another $750 to manage their social media. And if I do the math right, that's $3,500. So I came up, I was about $1,500 in profit from making the right hire. The reality, guys, is sometimes you got to spend money to make money. But when you understand what the expectation is, if I'm going to hire this person for this amount of money, this is my expected return, you've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So that was my story. That's how you figure out how to hire, why it's going to make a big difference in the world. But the reality is that the nuances of hiring someone on right is really, really important. If you don't do it the right way, I think you can actually go to jail, right, Don? Or am I being dramatic?
No, you can.
Okay, well, so we want to hire the right way and not go to jail. So I've brought in Dawn to tell us exactly what to do. She's got a wealth of experience. She's absolutely the HR expert, if not just in Central Florida. I think she's national level awesome. So Dawn, thank you so much for spending your morning with us. I would love for you to give us a little bit of more insight on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laurel. So, yes, my name is Dawn Sipley. I am the founder and owner of Simply the Best. We're an HR consulting company right here in Central Florida. And what we do is we help small business owners figure out how to hire, sometimes fire, and then really lead well in the middle. Oftentimes, when people aren't working out in a position, it's not because they don't have the ability or the skill set to do a job. It's because the personality is not a match. And so much of the hiring process is really figuring out if you can work well together. It's both willing and able. So that's kind of what we're going to be going through. And the way that I got into all of this is just kind of a God thing. I had a colorful childhood, got emancipated at the age of 16, and kind of figured out through the world of retail that I was a really good recruiter and headhunter. And through being in corporate HR, I grew in the corporate world and then ended up in a staffing company where I ended up spending 12 years, landed in ownership of two different staffing companies during that period of time. So not only was I in the staffing world, but I was also in the business ownership world. And that's really when I figured out that I was tired of kind of like working with these business owners and just giving a man a fish for the day and like plugging a hole and solving a problem for them. Because what I was realizing was they had all the same problems over and over again. I wanted to teach these people how to fish so they didn't have to use a staffing company and pay those really high prices just to do the same thing over and over again. And so that's really the heart and why Simply the Best was born. Wanted to teach small business owners how to fish at a much more affordable kind of price model and whatnot. So we actually work off of a subscription model where people pay just a flat monthly fee, and I'll help them with any HR issue. So that's kind of where we come in, whether it's strategic hiring or leadership development, whatever that is, because the policies and the teams and the training and the personality profiling go into all of that. But listen, you don't have a business until you have employees. Honestly, solopreneurs, you're kind of just freelancing at this point. You really just bought a job. And yes, you have independence. Yes, you have an LLC or you're an S Corp or you're doing your thing and you have that. But you don't have a business that is scalable in any kind of sort. And making that first strategic hire is how we're going to get you to that. So buckle up, get your notepad out. We're going to be sharing a bunch of information with you. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. But here we go. So it is going to feel hard because it can feel very expensive. And there are a lot of laws around it. Laurel was right. You can literally end up in jail for being an employer. There are lots of ways that you can get yourself in trouble, not only due to compliance, but the way that you behave in the workplace with your employees. Going the traditional job search route can be very expensive for small employers. I thought that I had an affordable pricing model when I didn't, when I created Simply the Best. But when I got into the business, I was like, oh, my starting price is just $3,000. Anyone can afford me. And I remember early on in Simply the Best start, I had this woman call me and she was like, hey, I really need help. I heard you were the best in town. Let's talk. And so we had a conversation and she was just shocked when I shared with her my price. She's like, Dawn, I can't even afford the Indeed ads. Like it's costing me $500 a month. I can't afford you. And that's really when I learned that we needed to have something even more affordable. And so you'll learn a little bit about that course, that digital course later on in the class today. but it can be time consuming to kind of go through all of those resumes and whatnot. And that's why it feels hard, is because it takes time and dedication, and you'll kind of feel like you are just sifting through a sea of chaos. But what I want to teach you how to do is not just to literally read a resume, but to read through a resume. Read a resume as if it's a journey. What is this person doing? What is the skills that this person is learning? Imagine what the person does on a day-to-day basis in each of these jobs. So many times the person has a terrible resume, but they've got a good skill set. They're just not a resume writer. Not everyone can afford someone like me to pay $250 to write a resume for them. And so also remember, a fantastic resume doesn't mean they have a fantastic skill set. It might just mean that they could afford an amazing resume writer. So don't be fooled by a resume, good, bad, or indifferent. We really want to critically think about the skill set that the individual had when they were working at Walmart, when they were working at Wawa, when they were in retail. I used to joke that I hired a ton of people out of two organizations, Victoria's Secret and in high-end jewelry stores, because those two places, if you sell diamonds or underwear, they know customer service. They know how to read their customer. They know how to ask inquisitive questions. They understand the why behind the purchasing process. And so for me, when I was in the staffing world and hiring internally, those were scouting grounds for me. So you got to look at the why behind the resume. And then you'll sift through those resumes just a lot quicker. So you got to have some strategy behind it. So remember, there are two different ways of hiring. You can hire an employee, which is a W-2 employee, or a contractor. A contractor is a totally different entity. It is not an employee. So a contractor can be a little bit more short term. They can be a little bit more flexible. You don't pay any taxes on a contractor. You don't pay benefits to a contractor. Usually a contractor is going to be a little bit more skilled. You're not going to really be training them on how to do their job. You might train them on, like Laurel was saying, the voice of the organization or the process of the organization, or maybe how you do things where they are, but they're going to be an expert in their field. Where an employee, you might have a vision for a longer term growth plan. They're going to have more of a controlled schedule. We need you here at 9. You're going to clock in. You're going to clock out. We're going to teach you our systems, our processes. You're going to use our computers, our technology. We're going to have eyes on everything that you're doing, and we will tell you what to do and how to do it. And hopefully they're going to be really invested in our company culture and the success of our organization. A contractor, here nor there, they're here to complete a project. They're in, they're out. You know, they're not going to have the same type of investment level. So there are costs to consider. You know, contractors typically, they're going to come in with their own rate because essentially they are their own business. A contractor, in the essence of who they are, can have a loss. They have their own expenses. They're working on their own technology. They pay for their own mileage and things like that. So they're going to set their own rates. Where an employee, you're going to provide to them the technology. You're going to do mileage reimbursement and things like that. Contractors, you don't control how or when they work. They just give you deliverables at the end of the day. The contractors will likely send you an invoice. Here's the work that I did, the times that I did it possibly. Some contractors will charge by the hour. Some contractors will charge by the deliverable. And then when they leave, their skill set goes with them. You have to be very careful. If they're creating intellectual property, your contract with that contractor needs to say who owns that intellectual property when they walk out the door. I've seen a lot of conflict around this. If they're developing products or intellectual property, you need to be very specific on who owns that when they walk out the door. Very important. If an employee is creating it, there's usually a little bit more clarity about who owns that because it's usually being developed on behalf of the company. It's a little bit more understood in the legal sense of things. So you have to decide which is right for you. Do you want that control, or do you just want the job done? For me, beginning of my career, I had this very romantic idea of hiring in someone green, teaching them everything that I knew. They're going to have a high level of loyalty and be very happy that they were given the opportunity to learn something. But then when I learned in practice was, I ain't got no time for all that. I don't want to have to teach them how to do everything. My day-to-day life, I just wanted the job done. So I had a romantic idea of what I wanted an employee relationship to look like. But when I implemented it with my personality style, I didn't want to be in the details of actually doing the day-to-day training. So you have to make sure that how you envision things is in alignment with your personality style. So traditional hiring, again, can be very expensive for the budget. You're paying those job boards, I mean, Indeed is a dumpster fire, y'all, whether you're a job seeker or a hiring manager or a business owner. There are bots all over it. Back in the day, 20 years ago, when I was headhunting, the best job won. If you had a good opportunity with good pay that was highly desirable, you got a lot of eyes on it. Now it's pay per click. If you don't pay, Indeed ain't letting people click. They will strangle the clicks on you. And so it's no longer let the best job win. Everything is controlled by algorithms. And so you have to be able to get off of the job boards. And we're going to be going into a little bit of that today. And doing what I call the old post and pray. You post the job and just pray someone amazing applies is a very passive way of recruitment. When I have employers come to me and go, recruiting so hard, we're really struggling. I go, well, share with me about your recruitment process. What are you doing? I go, well, I posted the job out there and just no one's applying. Okay, well, you completed a task in a recruitment process outside of posting that job. Tell me how you've been recruiting. They go, well, what do you mean? What else is there to do? I posted the job. That's the old post and pray. We got to get out of that model. And then sometimes they're rushing the process too fast. They come in, they shake their hand, they have a conversation. They say, when can you start? Bada bing, bada boom. It's that old burn and churn. You can't go too fast through the hiring process, nor can you go too slow. You'll lose really good candidates if you have too long of a drawn out process. You can't have the analysis paralysis. There's a lot of people who just, they get stuck and they can't make the decision and they're too scared to pull the trigger per se. But rushing the process can be just as detrimental as well. So there are more smarter, more cost-effective ways of hiring. And that's what we're going to be getting into today. So now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. So there are resources right here in your backyard. Looking at who we have on the call today, y'all are all right here in Orange and Seminole County. So I'm going to be doing some name dropping. This is where you're going to want to take some notes. We've got community colleges like Seminole State College. Sorry, I'm from around here. It used to be community college. We have Valencia State College. They're absolutely amazing. They have an amazing manufacturers association, awesome welding program out there as well. We have the second largest university in the United States of America right here in Orlando, Florida. If you are not plugged into UCF, you are missing out on huge hiring opportunities. They have something, all universities have something called Handshake. Handshake is a university tied job board that you can use for absolutely free. There is no charge to employers to interface with that. They have job fairs on there that are virtual. They have job boards on there. You can interface with students. You can post jobs. They can message you through Handshake and all of that. And then we have a plethora of trade schools. And a lot of these trade schools, they take GI bills and all types of stuff. So they are teaching HVAC, welding, carpentry, electrical. They have all types of stuff. Southern Community College. Yesterday I was at Kaiser University. Kaiser University has ranked consistently in the top dozen schools in our nation for taking low income students and giving them the highest percent increase upon graduation. Why do people go to school? Usually to make more money, right? Shame on universities and colleges and trade schools for taking people's money and not allowing them to earn more after graduation. Shame on them. So shout out to Kaiser University for really putting their money where their mouth is with their graduates having the largest leap in income increase after graduation. Day after tomorrow, I am going to be with Seminole County Public Schools doing a internship job fair. Last summer at this time, I onboarded, I think it was 18 interns through Seminole County Public Schools. Seminole County Public Schools is a highly ranked school throughout our nation. We've got Crooms right here in our backyard that is very technology based. We have culinary programs to support our hospitality, our restaurants, and our hotels. We have engineering programs here. We have all different types of programs. So at that internship, I'm going to meet juniors and seniors that are wanting to dedicate their time and get plugged in to into the job system. They'll work both paid and unpaid. And then just job fairs in general. Central Florida Employment Council is right here in Seminole County. OrlandoJobs.com does a huge job fair at the Kia Center. It's a premier job fair. There's job fairs in Volusia County. There's second chance job fairs. You need to be participating in job fairs and getting off of those job boards, because let me tell you what, I can look at a person up and down at a job fair and tell if I want to have a second conversation with them. And a resume is one thing, but being able to connect human to human is totally different. I have received resumes prior to job fairs, not paid them much attention, and then met the individual at the job fair and wanted to have a follow-up conversation with them. So job fairs are just a really great way to connect with the community. And honestly, y'all, it's good for business. I got my flyer up. I'm meeting people. I'm talking to the tables. I'm handing out tchotchkes. Like, it is not just for hiring. It is for PR. It is for connecting. It is for networking. It is for getting your name out there. So get out there and get it to those events. And then, of course, job boards are there's more than just Indeed and ZipRecruiter and Monster and that other one that I love. Just popped right out of my mind. But there's big, huge job boards, but then there's micro job boards as well. A lot of chambers of commerce use different job boards. So go to Seminole County Chamber of Commerce. The Christian Chamber of Commerce has a mini job board. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has a job board. There's micro job boards all over the place that you can get connected to. Your local colleges and universities will have an Amarator job board as well. So go back and look at those things. There are all types of free resources out there that are educational partnerships for you to get into those internships and whatnot. Super cost effective. So, although I've been hiring for over 20 years on behalf of companies, when I started Simply the Best, it was different. It's different, y'all. It is. I hire every day for businesses and I represent those organizations. But when I was making my very first hire as a solopreneur, I was a lot like Laurel. I was about 6 months in. When I started Simply the Best, my husband and I sat down and we said, okay, what's our budget? What are we going to do? What are we going to invest in this organization? And we came up with the number of 30,000. So we're going to do 30,000. If we can't get it up off the ground with investing that much, because it was September of 2020, well, the economy was a little crazy. The world was a little weird. We said, we can't get it off the ground with that much. We'll pull the plug and call it quits. Never invested a dime. It cash flowed itself from the very beginning. And so I was very lucky that way. 6 months in, I was having the experiences that Laurel kind of described. I was burnt out. I was working 12, 15-hour days. I wasn't able to get to my customers quick enough. They were starting to wait on me and send those follow-up emails. Hey, girl, where you at? And I knew that I had to make a hire. And so what I did was I hired for what I hated doing, like what sucked the life out of me. For me, my personality is I'm that classic entrepreneur. I'm good for about 70% of anything. Once you get me down to the details, I'm done. I'm clocked out. So I wanted to hire someone, if you're familiar with the DISC model, that had a high level of detail, that high C, that could button up all the details for me. I needed an administrative executive assistant to come in here and set up my QuickBooks, to develop, my Google Drive and everything, because I was just in a flash fire of response mode, and I knew I needed my systems and processes set up. So I had talked to CareerSource a few months before, and I remembered that they had what they called this OJT program. So I called them back and I said, hey, are y'all still doing that OJT program? And they said, yeah. And I was like, well, let's talk again. And so what I was able to do was I was able to onboard my very first hire. Her name was Lori. And Lori had been working for the same company for 26 years. And she wanted out. She didn't know how to quit. And so she didn't know how to transition or anything. So I connected her to CareerSource, and I connected to CareerSource. And then I hired her through the program. And CareerSource paid half of her salary for 6 months. So how it worked was I onboarded her, and every week I would submit her paycheck stub, and it was her paycheck stub and her time card to CareerSource, and then they would reimburse me half of whatever I had paid her for that week. It was a huge blessing. It was absolutely amazing. So I had 6 months to figure out how I was going to be able to afford her. And what I did was I reverse engineered the income. I said, if I can write, I think it was if I can get 3 resume rewrites a week, that'll pay for her salary. So we started promoting resume rewrites, because that would be $750 a week, and that would help cover it. And so in the beginning, that was my concentration. It was low hanging fruit. That was going to pay her salary. She was going to do the administrative stuff. And so when she was taking care of the administrative stuff, I was doing what I loved, which was writing resumes. That covered her salary. We were all set. She was building systems. I was doing what I loved. I was a happier human. I was able to go out to more networking events. I quadrupled the size of my company inside of 6 months. Quadrupled. I was happier. I was making more money. She was happier. It was a win-win for everybody. So by quadrupling that, I was able to make 2 additional hires pretty much on the heels of her after that 6-month period. And then we were off to the races, and I've never looked back. I've consistently had between 4 and 5 employees since that time. My most recent hire was Peyton. I was able to hire her through the Blackstone program at UCF. Kind of a unique program. You can hire a part-time person. You can work them up to 20 hours a week. And they will reimburse you $10 an hour for 14 weeks of that person's time. So they have to be a UCF student. And so during that time, she's in her master's degree program. She was a industrial organizational psychology major, and she had some interest in HR. And so we were able to bring her in, and she had her wage that I hired her at. And so it's kind of the same thing with UCF with CareerSource. Every month, it wasn't every week. Every month I would submit an invoice for the work that she had done, and they would pay me back $10 an hour for every hour that she worked. And I would get a big fat check at the end of the month every month. And so it really helped me supplement all the training and investing that I was doing with her as a young professional in our organization. Kind of in between those two, I had hired a woman during a really busy season. I knew she wasn't going to be a long-term member, but for me, she was 100% free. I never paid her a dime. She was with us for 3 months, and all she did was recruitment. We had just landed a huge contract. So I went back to CareerSource. I said, what programs do you have right now? I'm drowning, and I need someone that can just recruit. And so there was a woman by the name of Maria. She had been in the financial sector for her entire career. She was wanting to get out of that. And they said, well, we are trying to help this woman transition out of the financial world and into something different. We'll pay 100% of her salary if you'll just hire her and teach her some new skill sets. And that's exactly what I did. She was paid through Apple One staffing. It was funded by CareerSource, which is a federally funded nonprofit. And I got free labor for 3 months. And I was able to write her a glowing letter of recommendation, proving that she could learn a new skill set, a new trade, and all of that. It was great. And by the end of the 3 months, I knew she was job seeking during that time. And what did she learn while she was working with Simply the Best? How to be an amazing job seeker, how to write a resume, how to have an amazing LinkedIn profile. She couldn't have landed at a better place while she was in that job seeking process. And it was really a blessing to me because she was able to work 40 hours a week for a full 3 months and really help us through that busy season. So like Laurel was saying, you don't have to have a $50,000 a year budget to be able to hire a $50,000 a year person. There are interesting ways and programs out there that'll let you do it. And sometimes you don't need someone full time. I only needed Maria for that season. I didn't need another full time person. I knew I had a 3-month contract that I had to get through, and that 3-month hire was absolutely perfect for me in that season. So sometimes it's not we need a whole new person. Sometimes we just need to get through a season or need to get something kind of set up for us. And sometimes that season is really small. And that's why I like this Dewey Parker grant. It's just a 15-hour grant. So they pay these people, I want to say it's like $15 or $20 an hour. They pay them. I don't pay them. And it's only for 15 hours. So if you need someone to set up your chart of accounts in QuickBooks or something, or you need them to do a social media campaign, or you want them to push out a new boot camp that you have, or do some social media management, they just want to get exposure to something. It's a perfect program. They come in, they work their 15 hours at no cost to you. And it's great like that. And then I already talked about
I was gonna say I saw all these social media haters in the chat, so that Dewey Parker grant might be right up your alley.
Right. And people, and a lot of young people, they love social media. They they have big pie in the sky dreams of being social media influencers and all this stuff. And so having them come in and build up your Instagram or do something like that is really great. What I have a tendency to do with my interns, which you see pictured here on the slide, those are some of them from last summer, is they're just little champions for my brand. Ollie the octopus is my logo. And so we have a stuffed animal, Ollie, that's here, and they went all over Sanford and took Ollie out for field trips and took photos of him. And so I had hundreds of images that they produced that were all organic, that I'm able to use throughout the year during that time. And so the interns are just really able to make a really high impact during that short summer internship that I'm able to use throughout the year. Because when it comes to social media and having organic images and content, it can just be really hard to keep up with everything. So job ad alternatives, right? So yes, you can pay for job ads, you can boost, you can do the Indeed route and sponsor the ads and everything, but there are other ways to get your voice out there. Facebook groups is one of my favorites. Here in Central Florida, I run Help Wanted Sanford. It is a jobs group page. And it is 2 people get into that group, job seekers and employers. And I man it like a tight ship. Not everyone is managed quite as well as my group. So you want to be picky about the groups that you go into, but it's absolutely free for employers. I boot out all the people that are trying to detail your car and clean your air ducts. But if you're a job seeker, you can go in there and post your skill set and what wage you're looking to receive and what area of town that you're on. And for employers, you can post what you're hiring for, what you're paying, and the job duties that you have. But that's specifically for hiring. But keep in mind, you can go into any group. We have here in Sanford the Sanford 327. I love Castleberry. We are DeBerry. I love Orlando. Any, group, and just say, hey, I'm a small business owner. I'm making a big leap. I want to make my very first hire. The kinds of things I'm dreaming about this person doing, or this, and that. If you know anyone that has 15 or 20 hours a week extra, and would be willing to accept this wage, I would love to have like an organic conversation. Remember, it doesn't have to feel like a job ad. Just share your story and share your heart, and people will raise their hand that are attracted to that. Same on LinkedIn, write an article about your hiring journey. Say that you went to an amazing, seminar today, and you're dipping your toe in the water about being an employer. People will slide into your DMs and say, hey, let's have a conversation. I've got it. I've got an opportunity or a friend that should be talking to you. And then, of course, your local business networks. If you're going to networking meetings, stop talking about your products and services and start talking about your hiring opportunities. Not everything is about a sale. Sometimes it's about your business and what you're building. And then, of course, nonprofits and trade organizations. Nonprofits are usually serving people who are in an economic crisis, and those people are looking for jobs, whether it's the Sharing Center in Longwood or United Against Poverty on Michigan. They all have people that are either unemployed or underemployed. Goodwill also has a great job partnership program. They have little job boards there, and they will connect you to job seekers. So reach out to those nonprofits. You can host job fair days. You can be a speaker at those nonprofits. You can go in and do mock interviews for those individuals and meet candidates by volunteering at those organizations. One of the places that I love to volunteer is in the jail. I don't know about you, but sometimes some people have one really bad day, and sometimes they get caught. I got caught once as a teenager and got put in the old clinker. Shout out to Longwood PD. I'm sorry, I stole the coloring book. They caught me red-handed. Let me tell you what. But this is Aura Lynn. She runs Angels of Mercy. Aura is an absolutely amazing person. She was an RN, a wife, and is a mother. And one day she made the decision to drink and drive. And unfortunately, on that day, she ended up in a car accident that resulted in the death of someone else. And she was sentenced to prison time, and she served that prison time. And what she realized was that there was really no rehabilitation or bleeding hearts for people who had taken someone's life or that were being released from prison. So while she was incarcerated, she had a dream of making a path for people that were getting released. So when she got released, she bebopped here in town and said, I need a job. And no one wanted to give her a chance. And someone told her, hey, there's this crazy lady that owns a staffing company in town. You should go talk to her. So Ori and I connected. I just out of my heart, I kind of counseled her on how to answer those interview questions on where she's been for the last 3 years or so and how to get that job and things like that. She ended up sharing with me that she had a desire to start a nonprofit and go back into the jails and teach these things and stuff. I remember when she left, I remember going, all right, well, bless your heart. Good luck. Everyone has big dreams in jail. You have nothing better to do than to dream big. But sure enough, she did it. So now, twice a week, I go back into the jails and I teach the women about employability. And let me tell you, I have gotten so many of those ladies amazing jobs because they have made the decision, just like Aura, that this time is going to be the last damn time that I fall into the trap of addiction or whatever had landed them into the position that they are. And let me tell you, when you give someone a second chance, they are the most loyal, dedicated individuals that you can hire. So thinking outside of the box can be a really great employment strategy. Often they're willing to work for a little bit less because you've given them the opportunity. They work harder than anybody else. They come in early, they stay late. It's just really good. And on top of that, the federal government will give you some tax credits. If you hire someone that is either a veteran that has served our nation, that has been incarcerated, or has been on an assistance program like food stamps or WIC or something like that, and you give them an employment opportunity at the end of the year, you can actually get a tax credit. It's called a WOTC. And so having second chance employment, workforce diversity programs is really awesome. So there's so much funding out there. Like I talked about, economic development is a really big deal. There is stimulus, there is grants, there is money to be had, OJT, vocational programs. There's a whole cognitive spectrum of individuals out there, both physical and mental disabilities that you can employ. They say statistically, when you hire someone that is differently abled than maybe us normies, that you have better customer service experiences, that your team respects you more. So think about hiring differently. Oftentimes those vocational rehab places, they will pay the wages for those individuals. Jessica, I see that you're here on the call. Have you ever hired through a vocational rehab or anything like that?
We have not, but this
You
is
have not?
really interesting.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
hired through Goodwill. They usually send us great candidates, and we've
Mm-hmm.
also hired through Career Source. We just found out about the UCF Blackstone program,
Yes.
so we're getting an intern this summer,
Yeah.
and so that's been really rewarding.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. On to the next slide. So the hiring process, let's go from the initial posting all the way to the offer. So a job description is not an employment ad. Let's just get that straight right now. Sometimes I see these job ads and it's the whole job description. A job description is an internal document. It is not what you're going to post on social media. It's not what you're going to post on Indeed. The whole purpose of the job ad is just to get them to click and to get them to send the resume. And on the job ad, you want to focus on like the tasks, not just the results, right? Because sometimes I'll read what's on there and it's like, yeah, but what am I doing all day? So for example, like say it's a sales job and it says like connecting with new customers or finding new customers for the organization to increase revenue. Cross-selling existing customers and educating them on new products. Doing demos for customers so they understand the product line and how it solves their problems. Well, someone might think, okay, well, if I'm connecting with new clients, I'm probably going to like networking events. I'm going to their office and I'm meeting with them. If I'm cross-selling stuff, I might set up some meetings. I'm taking people to lunch. I'm, having cocktails and dinners and things like that. I might invite them to the office to show them the demos. But then you find out it's door-to-door sales and the demos are done at the dinner table. And that is a very different task than network marketing or, shaking hands and kissing babies. Door-to-door sales is very different than like business development and brand awareness. So make sure you are being very transparent on the tasks that the person is performing, not necessarily the results that they're going after. You'll want to include the company culture. Who are you? Why are you doing it? Those types of things. And clearly outline the compensation. I don't know why everyone isn't completely transparent about the pay. At the end of the day, it's work, right? We're all working for money. No one's out there not working for money. And so you'll want to, be transparent about that. And then also opportunities for growth. With it being, a very first hire for you, is there a ladder to climb? And remember, growth isn't just about the ladder, it's also about the bandwidth as well. So you'll want to share that. So you don't want just to rely on the skill set that's listed in the resume. You also want to look for kind of a personality fit. Yesterday I was at a job fair at Kaiser University, and I was right next to this recruiter from Orange County Correctional Facility. This guy was a social butterfly. He could not have been happier. He was talking to everybody. And that's just really what his personality was. If you sat him behind a desk and made him read resumes all day long and do data entry, he would be just a miserable human. So make sure that you're matching that personality and that skill set together. And then don't have your hiring process just be interviews. Actually make them show you the work that they do. Whether they're a tradesman or administrative assistant, the hiring process should be a long demo process. And then, of course, you want to make sure you're asking the right questions. I swear, if I hear y'all asking strengths and weaknesses in an interview, I'm going to come after you in the night. Y'all need to be asking some real good interview questions. What tasks do you genuinely enjoy? Like behavioral versus technical interviewing questions. Check out my website on the resources tab. I got a bunch of questions that are good, interesting, psychology forward questions that you can be asking. So making the offer and onboard like a pro. You've put so much work into recruiting. Do not mess it up by onboarding them poorly. You want to make sure that you have a onboarding process ready and waiting for them. And also make sure that you're touching them between the offer and the start date. So many people go, great, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And then they never have any communication with them between that 2-week process. You want to send communication prior to their start date. Hey, just want to let you know, we got your desk all set up. We have your email created. Been praying for you, and hope that your resignation at your other job went well. Let them know that they're being anticipated. This will severely reduce the amount of no-shows that you have on the first day. If you've been doing hiring a really long time, you will hear from people that you will be shocked to find out how many people will eagerly accept your offer and then never show up on the first day of work. And you are just sitting there at 8 o'clock in the morning, like, what happened? And then they ghost you. And it's like, well, when's the last time you talked to them? Well, when I made the offer. Well, you didn't show any enthusiasm. You didn't connect with them. You didn't start that relationship. The relationship starts at the offer letter. Actually, the relationship truly starts in the first interview. So start them off slow. Don't start them with this big grand, like everything. Like you can cast vision and culture, but step them into the shallow end of the pool. Don't shove them off into the deep end, show them day-to-day tasks, and get them started, get them flowing, and then start showing them the bigger picture, the bigger why, the bigger thing kind of behind it. Sometimes there's a lot of frustration when I talk to new hires, like, how's your onboarding process been? They're like, I don't even know what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and so really make sure that you're understanding the experience that your candidates are having when they're getting onboarded. So what I want to do is I've given you a lot of information today. You're going to have way more questions now than you have answers. So I have built out a huge course for all of this. I poured my heart and soul into this because what I found out was not everybody can afford my $3,000 starting rate. So I created an online course. It's got 10 different modules, everything from how to write the job ad, how to write the job description, what your application process needs to look like, how to do your background checks and your reference checks, everything through the job process, module by module. We make it super affordable, $13.99. It's got steps and homework and everything, and it's all digitalized for you. So just grab that QR code. Today is just a taste of it, just enough to make you go, oh, I didn't realize that it was all of this. So this course is going to take you through chunk by chunk, bit by bit, and giving you all the information that you need to really fortify your hiring process, because I know today is just going to be enough to make you realize that you're going to need more.
I think when we have these conversations, it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so you want to make sure you do it right. And so, of course, I am a huge Dawn fan, and she has spoken into my business in so many seasons. And so, knowing what she does and knowing that you're on the call today, you're like, it's $13.99. Yeah, that's not a lot of money, but from a time perspective, like, do I have the time to actually learn this and do this? And the reality is, if you don't take the time now, then when? And so, this course is for you if you're ready to grow but you're overwhelmed by hiring. This is going to cut through that noise.
Yeah.
You want to build a real team without wasting time or money. You follow the right steps to make your first hire, it's not going to be a waste of time. And like we talked before, it's going to make you money.
Yes.
And if you just need a step-by-step roadmap of like, okay, I'm ready, I've removed the fear, I'm feeling good to go, tell me what I need to do. This is going to be it. This is your step-by-step roadmap for success in making that first hire. And so once again, it's available today only $13.99 from Dawn. Scan this QR code. We will send a recap follow-up that'll have the link to it, but this is something that you're definitely going to want to take advantage of in your business. You may not be ready to make the hire now, but if you spend the next 3 months implementing this in your business at that 6-month mark, not only are you going to be equipped to make the decisions you need to make, it's going to be so much easier and you're going to be prepared. So questions, I want to open up the floor to questions. And so one of the questions I got, Dawn, before we started the call is when you make the hire and you've done everything that you could to make sure it was the right hire, there's this phrase, hire slow, fire fast. How do you feel about that? And when do you realize it's time to make the plug or pull the plug?
Yeah. Termination should never be a surprise to the candidate. And oftentimes you just really need to have an uncomfortable conversation. So I like to have a first day. Hey, how was your first day? You know, I jokingly say, oh, are you going to come back tomorrow? Because sometimes the answer is going to be, no, I'm not, I'm not coming back tomorrow. First week is another great conversation. Now that the first week is done, how are you feeling? And then first month conversation. And then you need to hold accountability immediately. If they're not doing the job well, don't say to yourself, well, they'll figure it out eventually, or well, maybe that's my fault. If they're not doing the job well, ask yourself, did I tell them how to do the job, or how are they supposed to know how to do the job? Did you provide them the information, or how else were they supposed to know where the information was had? Was there malice? Was there ignorance? How is the job not getting done? Where is your dissatisfaction happening? And are you communicating the dissatisfaction? What I find most times is people are just uncomfortable with the uncomfortable conversation and they don't have it. And then they just lop off someone's head and terminate them without ever having the uncomfortable conversation. And that's not fair. And that is terrible reputation management. If you have a bad customer experience with someone, you get a bad burger or someone's a little rude to you, you might not eat there for a while, but a year from now, if you get a craving for that burger, you might go back. If someone fires you poorly, they are dead to you for life, and they will tell all your friends what a jerk you were. So do not, for your own reputation, for your own brand protection, go out and act poorly as an employer, because it will follow you for eons.
Yeah.
So have the uncomfortable conversations, be dutiful, don't be a jerk about the termination. It's not a you're fired, kind of thing. It's a delicate conversation. It's soft. I don't think this is working out. I think I made a mistake. Maybe I didn't screen correctly. How are you feeling? Are you feeling frustrated too? Let's just call it quits. And oftentimes they're feeling the frustration as well. So just have the conversation and go in curious is my recommendation.
One more question, Dawn. Also great advice. And I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you just said. It shouldn't be a surprise and you don't have to be mean about it.
Yes.
Second question we have, is there for these like programs, whether it's career source or anything, anything like that, have you found that there are any standard preparations or standard questions they ask that a business owner should go in being prepared to answer?
Yeah. They're going to want to see, oftentimes, that if you have a brick and mortar, they're going to want to know where the people are going to be working at. So if you are a solopreneur and you're working from home, they're going to ask, where are these people working at? They often will shy away from a work from home model, because if they're paying the person, they're paying them because they want to be upskilled. Remember, the economic stimulus part is you're investing in this person for a reason. So they want to see a skill gap. That's why they're paying the person's salary. They're not paying it because they just love to help you for helping you's sake. They are doing economic stimulus and job creation, and this person will receive the benefit of working with you in these type of ways. So their resume is this, your job description is that, and the skills that they gain are in the middle. So job site, where will you work? And sometimes that can be in a public place. That could, we plan on meeting at the library 10 to 2 Monday through Friday, since we are a solopreneur, we don't have a brick and mortar. And then you need to be able to articulate in a very specific way what that individual will gain by being exposed to you.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, if those were your questions, I hope we answered them. We want to respect everyone's time. And so if you do have any pending questions, reach out to us. And so my name is Laurel. I am with Queen Lee Consulting in the Business Growth Bootcamp. You can reach me, email, phone number. Hey, you can even text me. You can visit my website at laurelordonez.com. And Dawn is always down for a good conversation and is an incredible mentor. And so I don't think she left anybody hanging, but there's definitely some info you need to dive into. So Dawn,
Yeah.
if somebody has questions, wants to connect with you after they watch this masterclass, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, email is absolutely fantastic. You can call or text too, but please use my website. I have a ton of free resources on there. If you need an application, if you need a W-4, if you need an I-9, all new hire documents are listed on my website. Also, we have emergency resources listed on our website. Being an employer is a burden, and your people will go through stuff, whether they're the victim of a crime, they're not able to pay their rent, they're going through something. We have all types of resources on there, because you won't have an HR department. Allow us to be an HR resource to you. Connect with us, use our website. We put a lot of free information out there. So it's posted. Check it out. Save it as a favorite. It's all out there for you. So check out our website.
Love it. Dawn, you're amazing. And if you took the time to attend this masterclass live in person today, you are also amazing. And if you watched the replay or watch this replay, you're pretty cool too. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.